The Hindenburg SEBI clash continues to elicit more reactions. We earlier spoke with EAS Sarma, the former secretary to the government of India in the Ministries of Power and Finance. In fact, written a letter to the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman seeking a judicial probe into the Hindenburg allegations. Listen to what he had to say.
2022, the Department of Economic Affairs and the Ministry of Finance issued an order which again relaxed the definition of how an overseas shell company should operate. It literally, the particular order of DEA made it easy for many of these people to stash their money in shell companies and then round trip it through third countries to India. So that itself is a very big relaxation. I wrote to the Ministry of Finance at the time saying, why did you do this?
Now, the former secretary also asked some questions that needed immediate clarity.
She, as a member, full-time member of SEBI, did she make a disclosure to Government of India, the Ministry of Finance? Similarly, when she became chairman, did she make a disclosure to Ministry of Finance? And did the Ministry of Finance apprise the Cabinet Committee on Appointments, which actually makes all these appointments, was the Cabinet made aware of these things? This is much more important.
The WION also spoke to Vikas Singh, an economist and author who's advocating for an impartial investigation and more regulatory reforms.
It's important to prioritize a thorough and impartial investigation into the allegations. This process should be transparent and swift to restore public confidence in SEBI's integrity. Let's also understand that 21st century India cannot be run by 20th century institutions. India's journey towards a world-class financial market necessitates a long-term perspective and addresses these challenges proactively.
And Mark Matthews, a prominent Asian markets expert, spoke about the case and its effect on investor sentiment. Listen to what he had to say.
What I can gather, the Indian investors I've spoken with see a lot of smoke and mirrors in this whole story, in the sense that Mrs. Buch and her husband did invest in that offshore fund, but it was almost 10 years ago, and they did so as private investors. And yes, it's true that Mr. Buch is an advisor to Blackstone, but that's not something anybody couldn't have found out or known about before.
In fact, he also spoke about the skepticism within India's booming stock market and over the corruption allegations.
There's just no way that the Indian stock market could have had the kind of returns which it has had over the last 10 years, 14% per year. Over the last 10 years before that, 17% per year. That's simply not possible if there's tremendous amount of corruption in the system. So,
now, interestingly, Mohandas Pai, who happens to be the chairman of RN Capital Partners, had a completely different take on the whole saga. He's calling the Hindenburg allegations as baseless and sees no conflict of interest.
She was a private citizen living overseas. She put money into a fund. It's a small amount of money, $890,000 for $48 million. That fund manager invested. They redeemed the fund, came back to India, and then she became a whole-time whole-time member. And she gave her list of assets and liabilities to SEBI. When you give assets and liability to your organization, what does it contain? Everything that you have as of the date. There is no mention of anything like that.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.